Good morning. So, this morning I want to talk to you about something that's very near and dear to my heart, and it's our children and how we parent them. I've been talking a lot about how we foster that inner light within our children. And the thing about parenting, especially in this generation of parents, is that we're trying to break out of the old way that we were raised with this new knowledge about becoming conscious parents and parents who foster that inner light within our children and give them that acceptance and that unconditional love, and without putting all the conditions. So this can bump up against our fears. So one of the examples that I have been bumping up against, as you may have seen, is if boys wear dresses or if boys wear nail polish. Now, these are the two big things in our society that if we see a man wearing a dress or nail polish, we might be like, that is not normal. So that's what I mean about the social construct that we have all bought into, is that boys are a certain way, girls are a certain way, and yes, there is some, crossover, but it's, some things are just not done by boys that are done by girls. Now, if a child who is not fully versed, first of all, in the gender typical kind of ways, they're just purely experimenting. So just like they might paint their hands, if they have paint brushes, they might want to paint their nail polish, especially if they see their mom or dad, yes, men do wear nail polish, wearing it, and so that's just curiosity, right? And they're trying to figure out their taste as well, and so for parents, when that bumps up against your stuff, really listen to, do I have a fear of my child turning out a certain way if I allow this behavior? Will it confuse them? Are they a boy or are they girl? Will it make them, are we afraid that they'll get bullied or teased by their peers at school? Because parents are very well intentioned. We all love our children. So of course, that protective drive within us is going to make us do certain things, because that protective drive, again, is fear-based. Now, we need a certain amount of fear to keep ourselves and our children safe and healthy, right? So that's how I navigate this whole parenting paradigm. Is, first of all, I only have a certain amount of energy and patience to be able to, guide and mentor and lead my children. The biggest thing I can do is model. So working on myself is the biggest gift I can offer my children, is, working on myself to find my inner joy, my inner peace, my self-compassion, self-forgiveness, so that I'm not operating out of guilt and shame and like self-criticism and inner doubt, right? So I'm stepping into my power and confidence as a person, as a human being, and I can model that because my children are watching. How do I interact with friends? How do I interact with family members? How do I, carry myself, right? How do I manage my own emotions, right? Emotional regulation, that's my biggest challenge, is because we were not exactly taught emotional regulation, emotional intelligence, this EQ, that is the big hot thing that we're trying to impart our children with. Well, we were not really taught that. So we are starting to learn, and there is a huge shift going on. So we are starting to learn about our own emotions. So fear is one of the most powerful emotions that has been used historically to control people and help them conform and obey. But also fear is there to help us stay safe. So you can decide as a parent how to use this fear. Now, if it's like a fear of like they're going to break out of the social normative heterotypical white supremacist dominant kind of structures, then really check yourself. Like, I've been asking myself, like, really, what is the harm of my son, who's 3, wearing a dress, or my children, 2 boys, 1 girl, oldest boy is 8, wearing nail polish on the hands, on the feet. Is that so scary? Like, is it going to, again, confuse them, make people tease them? Does it make us feel like uncomfortable and icky? Or can I open up my acceptance? Can I stretch my heart, stretch my compassion, stretch my ability to be curious and playful with my child who is just exploring colors and ways of, appearing. These are like clothes and polish and makeup, are just our ways of like just this creative artistic expression. So as a parent, I have to ask myself, first of all, how am I feeling when I see my kid acting out of the normatives? When my son is wearing a dress and nail polish, how do I feel? Am I worried about how other people will perceive me and my kid? And is that a reflection of me as a parent? You know what I mean? Like, I have to really become aware and check myself on all these things as the motivation to guide my parenting, my how I'm going to interact with my child. So if it's irking me or it's making me question and I don't deal with that inside and stretch that, I mean, look, you know what? What's the harm in that, really? For the trade-off of my child expressing their creativity, their joy of, experiencing this. And if I don't get to a place of trust that my child is here to live out their purpose, their journey, and part of that during the entire childhood up until age 19, and even further, is experimenting. So if it's me saying that I don't feel comfortable, boils down to that, with you wearing a dress because you're a boy and boys don't wear dresses, only girls wear dresses, and like take that off, I don't know, threaten him. And I've tried. I'm like, oh, so what do boys wear? What do girls wear? And he knows the difference. But he just thinks dresses are just so beautiful. They're so pretty, and I just see the joy in him that he's choosing to wear a dress. So if I don't tolerate and if I don't stretch my inner muscles, compassion muscle, acceptance muscle, then I'm going to put that stuff on him. And I'm going to force him to conform by forcing him to obey me and what I think should happen. Now I have to think, what is the damage? What is the risk? Right? It's not going to happen right away. This is the thing, because I've been counseling parents with their teens and spending the last 13 years with teens and really exploring what's in their heart, and what drives their behaviors. And there's always an emotional need driving our children's behavior, so the risk is that my child will disconnect from me, because they see that if they come to me, it's not safe. I'm not going to offer them this unconditional acceptance and love and interest in who it is they are. They will see me as a parent who is very rigid and set in my ways and wanting to, impart and like put on my child my beliefs. So that disconnection happens whenever any human being feels unaccepted, unappreciated for who it is they are. And when they sense that you are judging them, trying to control them, trying to conform them, trying to get them to obey to your way. And it's like this kind of like winner-loser dynamic. Or there's a condition of, I will only love you if you behave this way, do this, express yourself this way, right? Like we put conditions. And our children are very attuned. They're very quick to pick up on all of those underlying statements that we're making to them when we say, oh, I love you so much, because you're performing the way I want you to perform, whether you're doing your schoolwork, good job, and whether you're doing your helping around the house, yay, rather than helping them tune into how does that make you feel, when you read this book, or when you helped set the table, or when you got yourself ready. So internal drive, fostering the internal drive of a child, by our full acceptance and appreciation for them and showing interest and curiosity for them rather than good job, bad job, do it this way, do it my way, right? That's where confidence, if we want our children, I know most parents want their children to be confident and have self-esteem, which comes from self-worth. Well, where does that come from? The root of that begins in the early years, the first 12 years especially, so crucial that we give them that acceptance. We're telling them that you are worthy of my acceptance of you, even if it goes against my beliefs, my ways of how things should be. That's outside of real safety, real risk, real health issues, right? That's outside. So all these, like how they want to dress themselves. If they want to go out and wear PJs outside, if they want to, have like a bed head rather than fully nicely brushed, combed hair. You know what I mean? Like those things. But yeah, brush their teeth because it's health. It's around, making sure their mouth is healthy. And, even dressing warm. It's like, yeah, so you don't get sick around health. But they might have a different temperature than us. Anyway, so I digress. So the main thing that teens have told me time and time again of what they need from their parents, especially the ones that actually make it out of some kind of crisis, is my parent caring about me, how my day's going, how my friendships are, not bombarding me and interrogating me, but just real curiosity. And kids know when we're just curious versus when we are asking them questions because we're trying to get to some result or some answer that we already have in our mind, so they can tell the difference. But just when my parent is actually really curious, really open about me, cares about me, accepts me the way I am, versus the kids who actually go out and they feel this shame if they go against their parents' wishes and their parent doesn't accept and that parent doesn't do that inner work to stretch again and make room for their child's existence. I think that's the biggest task, biggest challenge. I certainly have it a lot of times, is for us parents to stretch outside of our own box, making room. And especially if we have multiple children, that each child has their own unique expression to unfold in this world. And if we're not stretching ourselves to make room for that and show love for that, like true like appreciation, like, wow, you really like to do things that way, that is your way, rather than you're doing it that way, that's not the right way, this is the way you should do it, right? That creates inner shame, and if we guilt them, look at what you're doing, this is making me feel like this, what's wrong with you, and comparing them, look at that person, look at your big brother, look at your sister, look how they're doing it, look at that kid, look at your cousin, look at your friend, and do it their way. That creates, again, more shame, more guilt of like, you're really hurting me, you're really upsetting me. That's guilt. So if we're creating guilt and shame within our children, well, how much self-worth are they really going to have? And there's an amazing quote that I have heard, and I can't remember where it was from, but basically, children who feel good do good. Remember that. They feel good on the inside, they do good. And the other thing is that there's an emotional drive behind the behavior. And if you as a parent only address the behavior, that they're not listening, they're not, again, conforming, they're not following the rules, and do, and you never address the emotions behind that, like how they might be feeling to make them disrespect you, not listen to you, hit their sibling, run away, not follow curfew if they're older teenagers. If you're not going behind that to like understanding, maybe they're feeling out of hugs, maybe they feel disconnected, maybe they feel tired, cranky, hungry. If they're teens, maybe there's a pressure to be with their friends, maybe they have a fear, again, emotions, right? All the emotions behind the behavior. Maybe they have a fear of coming home and being interrogated or bombarded with all your stuff as a parent, or lectured, like kids tune out because, again, anytime they feel not accepted, not loved for who it is they are, and they can sense that you're trying to get them to be how you want them to be as a parent, disconnect. Nobody wants that. Think of all the relationships you're in, all the friendships, if it's in your partnership, with your mother, with your father, with your siblings, with your friends, whatever related, with your boss. Think of all the relationships you're in for a moment. And the ones you feel really connected, really good, that you actually are energized to show up and want to put your, best self into that relationship and pour your energy and your love and your heart into that. Think about the quality of that relationship and how you think that person perceives you. Do they love you, accept you for who you are? And think about the ones that you're trying to run away from and the ones that you might be stuck in because of obligation. Maybe it's a family member or a friendship, or maybe it's again colleagues, jobs that you feel kind of like you have to be in those relations. And think about, where's that feeling? Do you feel accepted? Do you feel like you can just be your authentic self and that you appreciate for who you are? Or you feel like there's a sense of like conform. If you're different, then you're going to be, teased. Then we become so attuned to these things, right? So children are no different. So the more we can give them that acceptance and that love, the more we're fostering that inner self-worth and the feeling of being good in this world, and the more that contributes to them expressing that inner goodness out in what they do. And the risk, this is where I might use a little fear, but this is actually what's happened. The children who become addicted to drugs, alcohol, run away, to have like a partnership, or teen pregnancies. Most of those kids have some level of disconnect with their families that made them disconnect with themselves. They don't feel good inside. They feel shame. They feel depressed because they don't see the point really in life. So there's a lot of teen suicides and suicidality going on, depression, anxiety, and they tune out. They try to numb that intense experience of, again, disconnection from themselves and from the people around them by going to screens, video gaming, and then even bullying other people because they think, oh, this is the way it is. I got to get you to do what my bidding for me, so I got to threaten you, shame you, guilt you, scare you into it, use fear again. Versus the kids who feel good, they have so much self-respect, that they don't have it in them to hurt or harm anyone else. And if they do react, it's because that emotion's coming out. And if they had a parent or somebody in their life that accepted that emotion and said, hey, just release it in a healthy way, you don't have to go to crime or, violence, then they know, okay, I can accept even all my emotions, even the not so pleasant emotions, if we're going to label them or judge them. And they have a way. Okay, so that, and in terms of our parenting energy, we get to choose where we want to put our energy. Do we want to put our energy into getting our kids to obey and conform? Yeah, and there is some level of like social consciousness that we all have to, there's a social contract, to be a certain way. We're not going to run around naked. So there are limits. But we're going to teach our children to conform to every little thing to avoid our own discomfort, with them breaking out and remembering that our children are here to get us to evolve. And evolving means breaking out of the old paradigm. Some of the old stuff needs to shed, as well as there's like this balance of shedding the old that doesn't serve anymore, but also bringing forth the ancient wisdoms, the timeless wisdom, the stuff around, kindness and compassion and generosity and service and love and getting along with each other and sharing. But again, not through fear and through shaming and guilt tripping to share, or obey and conform because you're going to not belong, right? It's all about where it's coming from, the intention, your own emotional intention. And I know this is a long 20-minute video, but this is something that's been so near and dear to my heart. I've been gifted with a 3-year-old boy who loves to wear dresses, and my 3 kids who love to wear nail polish. And I have to remember my brother loved wearing, like using my mom's makeup. My kids love my makeup too, and I've been gifted with that. The reason I say gifted is because it's getting me to question my boxes and the ways of like how I think things should be. And it's helping me stretch my inner compassion muscle to make room for different varieties of human experience. And when I'm in that zone, well, that gives me that elevated, like, vibrational experience where I'm like, wow, like, there's, it's just easy. Life is, there's harmony, there's peace, there's inner peace versus inner turmoil, you know? And then if you have family members, when you're trying to be, conscious about your parenting and bring in and parent from love versus fear and allow some breaking out of the box behavior, as long as, again, it's safe and uh, healthy for them, doesn't threaten any of their safety issues or their health, right? If you're trying to break out of that box and evolve yourself and it's kind of irking your family members, um, then let's figure out how to have those conversations, because actual global change, our human evolution, starts from the self, starts from our own families, and then into our communities and into the society and the world at large. So let's make room for those conversations to understand each other, maybe set some boundaries with love. I understand you are this way and I understand where it's coming from. I'm also this way. I'm trying to have a more liberated looking at my children, allow them to flourish into who it is they're supposed to be. Have that conversation and say, okay, so what are our boundaries? you know Maybe around you, we're going to take the polish off, or maybe you're going to be like, okay, with my kids, I'll let them know that we don't wear nail polish, but your cousins do, or your friends do, or whatever it is, right? Let's try to have the conversations from the heart, not from ego and judgment and winner loser, but through the heart, which is about unity, reaching a middle ground, reaching a deeper understanding, tolerance, compassion. Okay, and then from that place, imagine what we're modeling for the next generation so that they can have peaceful conflict resolution. Conflict being the resolving of the differences that are in the world versus creating war and division and separation. Let's bring our families together through the differences and through tolerating and accepting the differences with appreciation, and then deciding, what we'll actually do once we have laid that foundation. Much love to you all. Drop me some love. Let me know what resonated, especially from families and people from more traditional Eastern backgrounds. You know who you are. I love the love that you give me in private messages. So let me know how any of this resonates, what your children are doing that's different than what society expects or what you grew up with, because our children are very different nowadays, especially if we've been immigrated. So we're out of our traditional land, and where our children are exposed to multiple cultures, multiple religions, multiple foods, and multiple ways of self-expression, multiple sexual orientations. Like, let me know what from this resonates, what you're challenged with in your children, how you're facing that challenge. Do you see it as a creating fear inside of you, or is it creating a sense of like, this is a gift for my growth? I love conversations like this, as you know. So please send it to me privately or publicly here, and let's keep the conversations going. Okay? Much love to you all. Take care.